Okay, so welcome everybody. I know a lot of you, but I don't know all of you. So I'm Gretchen Skoke DeSanto. I'm a professor in business management here at Lakeland. And it's my pleasure to have Tim McCarthy here with us today. He's founder of the Business of Good Foundation, in addition to a number of other businesses, which he's going to talk about today. So before I turn everything over to you, I want to tell you guys how I know him, okay, and the importance of having a network. So in 2009, Dr. Morris Beveridge, our president here, hopefully some of you guys have been able to meet him along the way, he asked me to start the college's first entrepreneurship center. So if I were to look back to that day, I'd be like, oh my God, talk about a cold sweat. I had no idea how to do that. Many times in my life, I've been asked to do things. Welding, when they gave me welding, I was like, I know nothing about welding. What do you do? You're going to face this in your career. What do you do? Well, recognizing I've never been the smartest person in the room, I said to myself, well, I got to find the person who knows how to do this. You know, I'm going to find intelligent people, successful people in my network, and ask them, you know, what I should do. So I was led to you, Tim, out in Ashtabula County. He had, this is 2009, a couple years before, he had sold a very successful business for far too much money. Sorry, I'm jealous. And then he was out in Ashtabula County working one-on-one with all these small businesses in the Ashtabula Harbor area. And that's why I was referred to him. And I remember within like 10 minutes of talking to him, I was like, this is someone that I want to make sure I stay close to, because I think he can help me as I move through it in my career and work with this entrepreneurship center and eventually teaching. So I've had him come out to a bunch of my classes, and each and every time he always leaves me with a couple of good nuggets. One you stole from Ronald Reagan, by the way, trust but verify. I think Ronald Reagan said that, but that's all right. So he's given me some really good things along the way, and that's why I asked him to come speak today. So he has started and grown successful businesses. He's sold them. He's been a teacher, a mentor, a coach. And with that, I kind of want to turn things over to you for a second and maybe just give them a broad scope as to, you know, what are some of the businesses you've worked in and started? And I know you've worked in marketing. He owns some Raising Cane's chicken restaurants, so he's in fast food. Okay, so a different jump between those two. And he's also a significant philanthropist. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple of minutes and filling in some holes of which I did not fill in.
Thanks. The quality of how we'll do today depends entirely on you. So if you will engage once Gretchen's done, that'd really be helpful to me, because I don't mind sharing anything. I'll share it transparently. You can know numbers or, you know, failures or anything you want, because I've had a bunch of those too. But it really depends on, and here's how I do it. Between, other than what Gretchen does, and she'll catch some really good ones, I'm going to give you a quick background on everything I've done as fast as I can, hoping that you'll connect what of that is interesting to you. So the overview is, I could talk about starting a business from scratch. What do they call it? Bootstrap. Okay. So no money. I just started it when I got fired from a job. Then starting that was a business just started as a consultancy. And so it was just getting enough to feed our family and keep them in hockey skates. And then the business that my son and I started, so you could also ask family business questions. That was a high capital business, because that was the beginning of the Raising Cane's of Ohio. We started in 2004 on High Street, right across from the front entrance of Ohio State, 15th and High. And that was $700,000 just to redo that store. And then by the time we had built our 44th store, 44th restaurant, anything that's in Ohio that's Raising Cane's, Timmy and I and our partners built. So that's, you know, how to start a high capital business or how to raise money. How to do small business, because she's right. When I got back, so my first 17 years were in Ashtabula, Ohio, and my last 17 years have been in Ashtabula, Ohio. I loved my hometown, and as soon as Allison, this is my wife, Alice. 47 years last week.
Ooh, congratulations.
On election day. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's been a long road for her. Tom will attest. But that can be a lot of small business. That's why Gretchen and I have so much fun when I come to the classes. Anybody that, you want to start the smallest business or that kind of thing. We do that all the time out in Ashtabula. We probably started over 100 businesses in the last 15 years. We have a lending company for them. We have a training company. We have all that. All that's part of the foundation, so it's all free. Starting a foundation. Alice and I started in '97. So if you want to know how to make a nonprofit work, you guys are like really interested in nonprofits or how to get it started or how to make it work or what to focus on, stuff like that. We could talk about that. So bootstrap a business, sell a business. So I've sold 3 so far. I've started 7, 3 of them failed. 2 of them were sold for a spectacular amount of money, and 2 of them are mediocre, if I've got the numbers right. And so there's a lot of experience if you're wondering how to sell a business or even a small business or whatever. I don't care. We just need to talk, okay? And then, I started, when I left Ashtabula, I went to Ohio State, got a degree in political science, went into politics full-time for 4 years, and then went into the advertising business, did 12 years in large New York City-based agencies, ad agencies, and then when I was fired from the position that caused me to start a business, because I never intended to start a business, that was when I lost my big marketing job. That was December 22nd of 1987. Our kids were 3 days before Christmas. Our kids were 8, 7, and 4. And we were the ultimate yuppies. We had a nice high-paying job, but we didn't have a dime in the bank. In fact, all we had was big debts. So it was an interesting 6 months getting ready. We started the business in July of '88.
Okay, so me. Can I raise of hands, who's taking business classes? I'm assuming it's pretty much all of you. Okay, so they're looking at going into business. Why is it a good time to go into business? And what awaits our students? So are you optimistic?
Yeah, I don't think the economy matters a bit. Not at all. Good businesses are started in recessions. They're started in high motor economies. It's really relatively irrelevant. It'll affect you some, like if you have to borrow money, you're going to buy at higher rates now and stuff like that. There's only one reason there's one reason to start a business and one way to start a business. The reason is to take care of you and your family. Never anything more or less. And don't ever lose track of that. When we have our first segment of 8, when we train people to get them ready to pitch for a loan, the first class is not about business at all. We have them write a life plan, not a business plan. Your business should fit into your life. And your business's sole purpose is to take care of you and your family. When to start a business is so desperately simple that I'm embarrassed to say it. It's when you're familiar with a category that you can see an unfulfilled need. You're in restaurants and nobody has good chicken fingers. You're in technology, and you're in taxis, and they're getting too expensive, and they're a pain. See where I'm going? Where in your little town there's not enough hairdressers. The hairdressers are always booked. That means it's time to start a hairdressing business. I mean, truly, it's literally that simple. I didn't say it was easy. I'm telling you, it's that simple. Find out what people want or need, and give it to them.
Thank you. So, who here is taking, another raise of hands, Principles of Management right now? Anybody in Principles of Management? Okay, so we've got a couple. You guys may remember this from earlier in the semester. There is a discussion in the textbook that talks about 7 challenges in business management. So some of these things are staying ahead of rivals, managing technology advances, managing for diversity and inclusion, and also another one is managing for happiness and meaningfulness. So I noticed in my class, I'm actually teaching 2 sections this semester, that I heard a lot from students. They're talking about, well, the most important thing in all of those, if we're going to be these business managers, is that we manage for meaningfulness and happiness. And honestly, that's the first time, and I've been teaching it for a fair amount of time now. It's the first time I've really heard that loud and clear, this happiness and meaningfulness. And I suspect maybe it's because of the pandemic. You know, we're coming out of this with a different feel as to how we want to approach work, which is good, right? But he has written a book. It's called A Journey to Engaged Philanthropy. And it was pretty clear that you're on this page of meaningfulness and happiness, along with my students. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the intersection of that and working in business. How do the two come together?
So, especially those of you who told her that, why is it important to have happiness and meaningfulness as a part of your business approach? Anybody guess why? Talk to me.
I would say that because if you're not happy, then it doesn't matter how successful you are at anything, it's worthless.
Great answer. Who else? Great answer. Brenda, thank you. Go.
Because you got to be happy with what you're doing, with what you're producing. If you're not happy, you're not going to do well in it.
Another good answer. Charmaine?
Yes.
Thanks. Hey.
Because our business would never succeed. You would never be successful if it's not meaningfulness and if you don't bring happiness.
Say more. I heard you and I like it, but say a little more
That's
about
Indy,
that
by the
because
way.
I think you're headed toward where I'm going. That's Andy?
That's Indy.
Indy.
India. Indy.
Hey,
for
India.
short.
You want to say another couple of words or turn it over to... There you go. Let's go.
And look, your business will flourish if you're flourishing.
Yeah, all good answers. Come on, give me the one I'm looking for. They're really good answers.
You don't like your business and you're just there collecting paychecks.
So true. So true. The deeper answer is equally simple and stunning. When you start a business and to maintain or grow a business, you are going to get the shit kicked out of you. I'm telling you, there's no way around it. No way around it. It is going to bring you to your knees. On many, many, many occasions. And so what adds to resilience but your happiness or your love for the business or you're doing something of meaning? You know, I mean, every one of us has been through stuff that when we're doing something meaningful, we can take a lot more crap, right? I mean, we can put up with so much more when we think we're doing something of meaning, right? That's why I love that she brought up happiness and meaning becoming a part of business. Because it really is. I used to come home, especially the first 3 years. I was lucky to have Alice as my Buddha. I mean, truly, it couldn't be more opposite, her and me. Impossible, right? I'm like, yeah, you know, and she's like, what do you feel like doing now? You know? And so she used to say, especially when we'd get closer, it had been particularly, I'd lost a client or something, she'd say, honey, remember, the worse this gets is you have to go get a real job. So that's another thing that really helps is know what the worst case is. If you're going to start a business, write out the actual scenario that says, here's what happens when I fail. Here's what failure looks like. I'll have lost all my money, or I'll have lost the loan and I'll have to bankrupt, or I won't have lost anything because I'm playing with the house's money or whatever. But actually play it out. Everybody loves playing out the success. Play out the failure. Why? Anybody guess why?
You going to, cause it's gonna call it quits, huh?
That's a better reason than I was going to say. Absolutely. So you'll know when to call it quits. But I was also, anybody else? Go.
So that you can maintain a good perspective on how
Boom.
well you're doing.
That's where I was going, is that, you know, if you say, okay, this is as bad as it can get, well, okay. So I lost 20% of my business today when that client called and said he hates me. Okay. Worst case. The other, one other thing, since it has to do with a soft topic like happiness and fulfillment, and I know a lot of you don't, I shouldn't be twisting that cap with the microphone on. A lot of you have been so far, just as I was at your age, mostly in work that takes away dignity. You know? I was in the restaurant business forever when I was a kid as well as when I got older. And I never understood why we thought that we would get somebody into the kitchen and whomp them and then say, okay, now go out and be nice to the customer. You know, it's just never made any sense to me. And so we always had, even when we were a 2 or 3 person thing, and Alice was a part of all of it, be nice. Why be nice? What does that have to do with business? Well, because you can't get anything done without other people. And if they're psyched up about coming into work, nobody gets really psyched up about coming into work, but if they, at minimum, don't hate you, you know, you have an advantage. Figure out a way to treat other people the way you want to be treated. That was the one policy we had with our Mentor business, which was the first business we sold. Treat others as you want to be treated. And then we would apply that in training to what happens when a client yells at you, or what happens when you make a mistake, or what happens, but it would all come back to that very simple yet very hard to do. What happens when a fellow employee does you dirty? You know, well, you got to stop and first line up what your action's going to be with how would you treat yourself if you made the mistake, or you were the one being mean, or, you know, because you had a bad day.
Okay. So, I'm a big believer in business can be a power for good, okay? And I think you feel the same way, given he's invested a lot of money of what he has made, okay, giving away, I believe, a commitment to give away most of your money. So could you talk to us a little bit? You had that very successful business called Workplace Media, 20% of the profits of which you would put into your foundation. So could you tell us about that and the impact that investment has made on our community, and the fact that all business isn't just about greed, it can actually serve a purpose of good in your community?
Ultimately, as much as, especially in these days of politics of grievance, everybody wants to find the bad, and I honestly feel that by the time you guys are my age, you'll have experienced a real transformation in business. I really do believe that it's going to there's always going to be there's going to be 20 to 30% of businesses, just like 20-30% of people, are going to be bad actors. But I truly see a seismic change in businesses starting to recognize that you do better when you do good, you know? We started that because we really believed it. And yeah, we started over 20% of the profit of every profit dollar in the first business. By the time we finally started making profit in our 9th year was when we finally started making profit. It went right into the foundation, and that gave all of us more of a sense of purpose. It wasn't just for Alice and me, it was for anybody that was associated. And then you start learning, that's what the book was about, you start learning what works and what doesn't, you know. We first thought we could save the world, so we took that money and all of our hard work down the St. Clair Superior neighborhood in Cleveland, 82nd and St. Clair, and built up 9 or 10 services out of an old church property, St. Philip Neri. And it's still there, actually. The services are still there, I think, through Catholic Charities. We found out a hard lesson, which was we're not good with direct service. And so we started transforming ourselves into getting behind people who are good at direct service. And so we're behind micro-lending organizations, people who loan money to people who can't get traditional lending, which I was. And we have a huge, I'd say about another, that's probably 40% of our dedication is to get poor people into business, or I should say low income or non-traditional people into business, give them a chance to take care of themselves. And then another 40% is in getting first generation or low income students through college. So, all of you are probably more familiar than my normal audience, but how many kids that start college out of 100 average people in the whole United States, how many of 10 that started this fall will graduate within 6 years? Of 10.
How many of 10?
Average, just the whole, anybody in the United States. Does 8 of 10 get through? Does 5 of 10 get through? How many get through to graduation persist? 5? You're close, it's 6. So in general, probably between 5 and 6 in general. How many low-income students actually persist to graduation within 6 years? Out of 10, out of 10.
1 or 2.
1. My theory is they're worse off as opposed to better off than if they'd have not gone to college at all. Because probably they have some debt, you know. Probably they were seen by their peers as too cool for school. Probably they feel a failure. And it's just it's the worst statistic I ever heard. And I heard it 13 years ago, and we've been working on it for 13 years. We had a fabulous process that flamed out about 7 years ago. Now we've recollected it into a thing called americamentors.org. You can look it up, americamentors.org. Also, if you want to know anything about the foundation, look up thebusinessofgood.org. That's what Alice and I dedicate our lives and our fortune to. So, where I was trying to get was learn what you're good at. If you're going to do what's for good, learn what you're good at. The organization that we do low-income business lending or entrepreneurial startups in Ashtabula is actually self-sustaining. So, find out what's the right way to do it.
Okay. So, long career, successfully starting, growing businesses. Can you give me 3 leadership skills or qualities that you think have given you your success? So the top 3?
Well, first that assumes I'm a success. I'm becoming a success, I think. Still have a lot of setbacks. Alice will attest. Probably the most is I get people off guard. Hopefully I've already done it with you by being ridiculously transparent. And that's probably helped me more than anything to lead. Because I found out early, because I certainly, just like you and everybody else, tried it the other way. But I found out really, even when you have to struggle to tell the truth, your truth, tell it. Because even if it's bad truth, it's better to have it out there so everybody can deal with it. So I think a real quality of leadership is to be genuine and transparent. Because then, you know, I never had to be going back and covering my tracks, you know? Another which I strike out on mostly, but is so it's not me that's that, but I do think humility has a lot to do with people I look up to that are terribly successful. They get through a lot of things just because they're humble. They know they're not full, you know. Like in decision making, like if you're not humble, then you think you've got the answer. And I found out long ago, you know, I'm fairly smart, but if I have 2 people helping me, I've got twice as good a chance to get the right answer. 3 people helping me, I got 3 times the chance to get the right answer. And then the other, I guess the other leadership, I did write it down. She gave me the questions ahead of time. And I think I remember 2 of them. Yeah, you'll hate this one. You got to be able to do all the things you hate to do. Truly, because nothing works unless, you know. I hated to sell. It doesn't sound like it now because I'm pretty full of poo. But I hated to sell. I hated to do the real selling that Tom knows. You know, that he and I have both done most of our careers, where you really got to just gulp down your ego and get ready to be told no, you know, and then pick yourself up and, you know. I hated numbers, still hate numbers. And yet if you're going to lead and be successful, you have to at least know somebody who can do the numbers and have them teach you how to understand it in your creative brain. So I have a creative, I got a right side or left side or wherever the hell it is. And so it was very hard for me to get numbers. So I had people train me. You got to do the stuff you hate to do.
Okay.
Did that work?
So we're running out of time. We've got a couple minutes
Oh,
before
boy.
I wanted to turn everything over to them. So
You
I'm going to
better
pick
have
out one more
questions, you
question.
guys.
Yeah, I'm going to pick out one more question of mine, then we'll see if you guys have some
Because
questions.
she'll keep us here whether you have questions or not. I know her.
Well, they have to. You know, I'm
You
feeding
know
you all.
her.
So we're feeding everybody. So they got to. Yeah, we got to put some time in to earn your food. So, okay, Professor Golden's back there. Professor Curtin is back there. If you guys have, you know, most of you probably have. Most of us, we talk about building your networks. Really important. The people you surround yourselves with, right? How much it's going to mean for your personal life, for your professional life. It's incredibly important. So I'd love you to tell a story that basically speaks to the power of your network.
So when they named that new firm Constant Contact, I found it fascinating because that's the answer. You have to start building a list of people that you think can affect your life positively, and then just constantly contact them. Now, the way I did it was the very first business we started in 1988. Alice and I sat down and I can tell you, I can show you the list. I've still got it somewhere. It was with that old holes in the paper, computer paper with the green and white stripes and stuff. We had 165 people that we thought of that I'd known through business or that my family knew through business or whatever. And that 165 people became the establishment of my network. And then what I did with them, because it's no good to have a list you don't use, is I started writing them once a month. I created a little newsletter called Market Talk, and I me and her sat on July 4th, 1988, while our kids, my sister took our kids to the museum, and we sat there and folded and stuffed and printed 165 newsletters and introductions of our company. How long ago is that? 88 to now.
34 years.
I never stopped writing, monthly. I still, every month. The people that like being in my network, because it's only by permission, their permission, not mine, I invite you all to my network. All you got to do is look up thebusinessofgood.org. Your penalty, should you give me your email, will be at 6 a.m. on the first business day of every month. I'll drop a note in your email box that has a 400 or 500 word blog that Alice loves to edit, because I do the grammar not very well on the first few edits. It'll have a joke of the month, a book of the month, song of the month. I love music. It's just a way to keep in touch with people. And I would say to you, honest to God, as crazy as that sounds, through every business I've been over that 34 years, through every foundation thing or do-gooder thing or anything that we've done, that has been the constant seeding and weeding and feeding my network. Think about it. Think about how you want to develop that network. It is, the professors are absolutely right. It's win or lose. And think about this when you're thinking about being worried about bothering somebody. What does somebody like better, including ourselves, than being asked their opinion? Right? And so I was always stunned when I'd ask somebody, hey, can I ask you a few questions, or can I come to your office, or can I come work with you for a day, actually, follow what you're doing? I was stunned. I very rarely got a no. Very rarely, because everybody wants to be, oh, yeah, yeah, I'll tell you what I think. Ah. Everything. Network's everything. Everything. Okay, it's not everything.
What questions do you guys have?
This better be good, because you seem pretty intelligent.
When do you know it's time to sell a business?
Oh, wow. You are sharp. You should have it somewhat in mind the day you start the business. And you should always be thinking about when you want to sell it. Always. You know why? Because it'll make you run a better business. But no business, I think the saddest thing that I deal with at least once a week is someone who, because I deal every day with people who want my help, and the saddest ones I deal with are the ones that they need to sell their business now. And they could have thought of it a year ago, 5 years ago, whatever. You start thinking about selling your business as soon as it's, as soon as you can. And especially at your age, it's like one of the reasons to sell the business might be to do a different business, because you might get bored. One of the reasons to sell the business, in my case, was I didn't want to work that hard. We could have kept Workplace going for forever, I suppose. But I just didn't want to work that hard. I wanted to go out and just hang out with Gretchen and pretend I'm real smart in front of smart people. I mean, seriously, can you imagine a gig this easy? Alice was like, they don't pay you for this, do they? I had, no, they don't. But it pays my ego. Who's got something? Guys better not let me down on questions.
What type of politics were you in?
I refuse to answer on the grounds it may incriminate me. I was a professional party organizer for the Republican Party. I ran a very large, I was the executive director of a large political party, Republican Party organization in Michigan. And I think it was 22. About 7 years ago, I lost my faith, and I now work for the other side. I just don't believe in grievance. Nobody gets anywhere if they tell you what's wrong. Teenagers can tell you what's wrong. Tell me what you're going to do that's right. Hi, Brenna. Looked like you had your hand up.
I did. I would like to know your definition of successful in business.
In business?
Or in life. You had mentioned
In
that-
business, it's mainly delighted customers. I mean, that's the number one thing. So if you're going to start a business just to like make money and do stuff that's as good as somebody else, but real success in business is find that thing that they can't get elsewhere, and by giving it to them, you're always going to have delighted people. Each of the businesses that have worked is stuff that people couldn't get elsewhere. That's success in business. The other success, I suppose, is it's hard to say, but you have to make money. The Raising Cane's business didn't make money the workplace business didn't make money for 11 years. Raising Cane's didn't make money for 9.
Now, you guys are doing pretty well with Raising Cane's now, though. I see new ones popping up everywhere, right?
Killing it.
It's really good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was just asking about successful because you said that you were becoming a success, that you had setbacks. So, do you really feel that the setbacks are something that makes you unsuccessful? Or are you using those as learning opportunities, et cetera, et cetera?
I'm walking away from a partner tomorrow. And it's a person I not only admire, I like. Yeah, you're never successful. You're always seeking success. You're always seeking to be fair. You're always seeking to be a good person. But if you're honest with yourself, it's all becoming. But yeah, it's going to be the worst day of my life tomorrow. No, it'll probably be one of the 30 worst days. Each one of them's been when I had to separate with someone that I cared for. So yeah, becoming, the best leadership book I ever read was actually titled On Becoming a Leader. It's Warren Bennis. It's 40 years old, so it's probably a shit book now, but it was an inspiration to me, and part of his theory was just that. It was, you never are a leader. And in fact, the people that tell you that they're a leader usually aren't. Because they think they've arrived. And the people I admire most are always becoming. Even if it's besides being a leader, they're becoming a great welder. They're becoming a great consultant, or they're becoming a really good CPA. You know what I mean? It's like people becoming is really important. Again, it's also a shield against complacency, a shield against the setbacks. As you say, oh, like tomorrow, I'm going to spend the rest of this year trying to figure out how to reconstruct the company by letting that person go. And that's going to be brutal. It's not only going to be brutal saying goodbye to a friend, but it's going to be brutal reconstructing the company by January 31st when they'll be gone. It's going to be awful. So no, if you're smart, you just keep on learning if you can. That's the best thing my old man gave me. He went back, he was a medical doctor, and he went back to school when he was 64. To get another degree. Yeah, it's a lifelong gig if you accept it. Yay!
Can you talk a little bit about your work with nonprofits?
Sure. Choose not only what moves you, but where you think you can make a difference. It's just like business. So you might be moved by saving stray cats. Make sure you're good at it before you go out and try to figure out how to save stray cats. The other thing is to find out what's already being done. So I cared so much, having been devastated by imagining that 1 out of 10 kids that head for college don't make it. You know, if you're first gen or low income, I went and studied the category. I studied it for about 2 years. And interestingly, by the way, which you'll see if you look up America Mentors, the only solution that nobody had figured out how to get widely available is mentoring. There's no solution like giving more money or not even giving them tutors. You got to get somebody that'll stand on their shoulder. And so we created a software platform that we provide free to the schools and to the kids and to the mentors, which is a way for them to work together unobtrusively. Because the stuff that knocks a low-income college striving kid down is not by plan, it's episodic. You know, it's like the girlfriend leaves or the boyfriend leaves or the cash runs out or the grades go down because you're working too hard to keep the cash. Anybody familiar with that in this room? See the grades going down because I'm making enough cash to go to school, or the cash runs out because I'm doing really good at school. You know, it's a horrible balance that has to be dealt with. And so the only good thing that you can do is make sure they have a mentor. We got 6,000 connections right now, this fall was starting new, but through last year we had 6,000 people connected. So 12,000 people connected, 6,000 matches. And we're going to have it nationwide before I die.
So you would say that pick something that moves you and will make a difference, and research that specific area, and
Including finding out what's already being done.
including finding out what's already being done. And if you're good at it, don't go into something that you suck at.
Bango. Or that you can stop sucking at. Right? But the other one again is just like business. What's not being fulfilled? There was nobody out there trying to, well, there were people very ungraciously 17 years ago when we started, there were very few CDFIs, which is Community Development Financial Institutions. Very few. And they were doing it pretty inelegantly. So we figured out how to become a more stable bank for low-income entrepreneurs. But then the same thing, we had to figure out what wasn't being done for low-income college kids to help them persist to graduation, and then you go do that. So same marketing concept that I told you about business is true in nonprofits.
And then I have one more question. What's
Is she allowed?
what's a piece of advice that you wish you had that you know now that has helped you?
Yeah, fire people.
What'd you say?
Fire people. When you're a good-hearted person like I am, you hang on too long. And you get taken advantage of. That's what happened to me in this situation I told you about. Just, you know, do something nice for them personally, but don't let them keep screwing up your business.
Thank you. I appreciate
You imagine how many partners, especially people your age, that start as a partnership and then end up hating each other? It's so, you know, consistently true that it's almost like a parable. You know?
How did you balance that with?
Hang on one second, I'm coming back to you because I love talking to you, but I want to catch anybody back there that's shy. Go.
I just want to start off by saying, because I actually grew up in Asheville, and your foundation sounds amazing. Just because growing up there, it's, you know, it is very like low income.
Ooh.
And
The
just
town
seeing
that
the
God
harbor-
forgot. What?
Seeing the harbor now, it's definitely built up. But what would you
Not
say?
me,
like-
it's about 30 really strong people. Will you come see me?
Huh?
You still go to Ashtabula some?
Oh, all the time, yeah.
Will you come see me?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Tim, everybody, Tim at thebusinessofgood.org. I never don't respond to an email.
And that's so true.
Tim,
You might be the only person who
I
always
just-
emails back.
I find email easy. If you call me, I doubt I'll answer, and I doubt if I'll call back. No shit. I'm not good on the phone. But email, please. And I'd love to, you know, hey, I'm going to be in the harbor next weekend or whatever. I'll come see you, show you around. Where were you going with your question?
What, like, as far as like dealing with like low income entrepreneurs, like what do you think like a common challenge is for them, like starting up a business, especially like somewhere in Ashtabula?
Well, the most common that we find in Ashtabula is they don't have money. The other most common is they think they have a genius idea, and that's not true.
And the ones that you have open or helped open, like how do you help them to like stay open?
So here's what we're going to do, so you get a real answer, is I'm going to go introduce you to a couple of them. Honest God. And they'll have a better answer than I would. Another common problem that we face with low-income entrepreneurs is listening too well or not listening at all. We have a hard time finding people that are willing to listen, but also, hey, this is my business. I'll figure out how to run it, right? And then lastly, which is a intractable social problem in our entire country, the low-income people are the least trained in things as simple as doing a budget, because nobody ever trained them when they were kids. It's one of the reasons they're poor, is because generationally, they didn't have the opportunity I did, you know, to learn how to add and subtract and make sure you always had, you know.
Well, it's incredible that you're able to do that.
Sometimes. I would say out of 100 people that we've worked with, we have 10 or 15 that make it. So it's not I don't have a formula, and we don't have a boom, 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 you know? And it all depends on the person and their coachability and their ability to find something that they really could enjoy doing that nobody's doing in Ashtabula. And it's throughout the county, by the way. It's Conneaut, Geneva, Jefferson, we're involved everywhere that we can be. Anybody else go to Ashtabula that didn't live there? I got two blondes in the back. Go.
First, what was your email? I didn't catch it.
What was my what?
Your email, you were mentioning email to email you.
Tim, real simple, my first name, Tim. And then The Business of Good, which is my foundation, The Business of Good. And then always put ORG instead of COM or it won't make it. Tim at thebusinessofgood.org. Happy to talk to you anytime.
Then, what does it take to start a franchise versus starting up your own business?
It's such a terrific question, and my son can answer it much better than me, but I'll tell you what he usually answers. The good difference is you don't got to make up anything, right? They've already got the formula. Raising Cane's had the formula, knew the, sources to get the chicken, knew that, right? So that's the good news of franchise. The bad news is most of them are in the business of selling franchises. And so they're not as interested in your success as they are in getting your royalty fees. So here's Tim's always recommendation, and always very simple. Go work at the franchise you might buy. So you're going to do maids. What's the maid service?
Molly maids?
So you're going to do Molly maids. Go be a Molly maid for 6 months and find out how it works. You want to try a Subway. Go work at Subway for 6 months and you find out what's, it'll also help you figure out whether you want that franchise.
All right, so earlier you mentioned that you had multiple businesses succeed, but you had a few that failed. Was there any particular reason why those ones failed while your other ones succeeded?
That was mean to ask. We don't talk about our failures. That was terrific. I'm glad you asked. there are three things that will cause, when we go looking for a business to buy, which now our partnerships do, it's in this order: people, product, process. And it's almost like a three-legged stool. If they're out of balance at all, you're screwed. So people, what kind of people do you have? You know, is the business built around strong, solid people that are, you know, right-minded and positively spirited? Second, and more important than number three, but less important than number one, the product. What's the product, right? Is it a product people actually do need, or are you convincing yourself of that because you're really good at X, you know? I'm really good at Mexican food. That makes me ignore that there's 4 other Mexican restaurants in Ashtabula. But I'm still gonna, no. Anybody know Briquettes in Ashtabula?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Wonderful
great
barbecue. They were going to be a crepe business. They were going to sell crepes. Oh, crepes are cool, but not in Ashtabula. You know, we know crepe paper in Ashtabula. We don't know what those things that are right is. And then last is process. And so process means, can you sustain the product model? And it just means, can you get the right ingredients for the Mexican food? Can you get the right people? Do you have a process for getting people? See where I'm going? And so that leads into give you the quick answer. 3 of my failures were the wrong people. None of them were the wrong process, and one of them none of them were the wrong product. One of them was the wrong process. We couldn't sustain. It was a great product and they were great people, but we couldn't, the process wouldn't sustain a profit. But the 3 big mistakes were investing in someone that I shouldn't have. One of those being myself. Truly. I mean, there are 2 other people that I invested in, but I invested in myself to build a condominium development when I didn't know shinola about building or about selling condos or anything else. And it failed miserably. We got killed.
I think we have a couple more minutes so we can get one from Brenna and this gentleman in the back, and then I think that might be
Oh,
it for
yay. I got a quiet one back there. Brenna, you give our second to last because I want the feature to be.
Absolutely. I just wanted to know your greatest piece of advice regarding going into business with a family member or a close friend so that you can keep your relationship and your business successful.
I'm now in business with all 3 of my children. In no case was it easy. With my daughter, we failed in one, and then now we're starting to succeed in another, although it's been a failure for a couple of years. And I'm just starting with the 3rd one. Family businesses are tricky because the role you have in that person's life. I couldn't see Timmy as other than a son, and he couldn't see me as other than a father. And so the first thing and the only rule I follow when I try to be in business with a friend or a relative, if we don't say everything that's on our mind, when it's on our mind, we're screwed. It just won't work. You just gotta tell, you gotta get outside of your role and tell everything that you're feeling as you're feeling it, or one family member will kill the other one, I promise.
You talked about relationships a lot. How do you decide what you can trust your employees with and when you can be in a partnership with somebody?
You guys are really smart.
They're all my
Seriously,
students.
all your questions have been really good, but some of them are particularly sharp. I don't think there's probably an easy answer to that. The answer I've probably followed is I have to be trustable myself. And so the people I've had the best relationships with, or the worst, like the tomorrow thing, have gotten the message from me that I have to earn their trust just as much as they have to earn mine. And this is the crazy part, it's a daily task. You never build up a bank of trust that lasts through a really bad situation. Just doesn't happen. That's what happened with my partner that we're severing tomorrow. You have to earn each other's trust. Again, it's not unlike that whole thing about treating others as you wish to be treated. If you want to trust somebody, you better be trustable. Because otherwise, you're just getting into a peeing contest. You know? Because you'll trick them, and then they'll trick you, and then you'll trick them, and then they'll trick you. You got to set a foundation by being. It's wasn't that the Gandhi or somebody? Be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. If you want love, love. If you want trust, trust. And be trustable.
Well done. Thank you all for joining us. Could we get a round of applause for Tim?